Hey, 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 another Tuesday night. Joey Ragona here with you. It is a Marketing Made Easy Tuesday night. Hopefully, you are already enjoying your day. We've got an epic show for you coming up because we're going to be talking all about stuff that comes up pretty much every single day in my conversations with people. It's all about focus, it's all about clarity. They're needing focus, they're needing clarity, and maybe you need some focus and clarity too. And I've got in some information to share with you today, something that I dug up from 2014 or something when I first started coaching. So forgive me as I go through the old presentation here, but hey, it's still pretty cool because the information is awesome. And I was very focused in on helping people with focus and clarity. So that's what we're going to talk about today, man. And bringing in my good friend Scott, who is in the house today. Focus and clarity, man. Like, what is it all about for you? Like, what do you any quick tips to before we start off the presentation, and then we'll get into this whole discussion. Good to see, by the way, Mirella. Yeah. Ah. Thanks for that, by the way, because people are going to take you seriously, right? Wait a minute, I don't think they can hear you. Um, Good, because I didn't want them to hear what you said anyway. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Why is that not happening? Let me just see here. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Let's try that again. Anybody, can you hear Scott now? Because I'm just switching some controls here, because maybe that'll work. Oh, you know what? Okay, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Thank you, everyone, for letting me know, because Goofball Joey here. Hang on. There, there we go. Yes. You're gonna get a thumbs up on this one. Not yet. Really? What's going on? Dang it, man. Hang on. Did I get the right audio coming in here? Um, I know it is working. I hear you. Uh, why is this not working? 1 minute. All right, come on there. Da, da, da. Do I have the virtual mic on? The mic, it's on. That's really weird, man. I don't see. Huh. You know what? I don't see the right microphone to bring you in. That could be the problem. That could be the problem. It's all good. We're going through Ecamm. So, um that's not good. I am working on it. I know what the problem is. I just don't the input that I'm looking for the microphones is not here. Um so this is going to, man, I don't even know how to fix this now, because we're going to have to stop and start up again, which is not good. You know what I'm going to do? Hang on a minute, Scott. What I'm going to do here. I'm going to close Ecamm. Okay. And you might get kicked out. Just come back in. Okay. So give me 1 second here, and I'm going to close it. And while you're waiting, because you guys can still see me, I'm going to start up Ecamm on the other side and see if that works. This is what happens. This is why it's all live. This stuff happens. So you know what? It's no big deal. No big deal. Righty. Let's see now. We got him back in here, and let's see if I have the microphone. I don't have it. Dude, this is so weird. The only other option I have here is that I gotta start StreamYard again. That means we have to start live again. That's not good. All right. Let me try that. We'll be back, everyone. We'll be back. I think we are back.
You got it? We're back?
I think we're back. Let me just see. It says are we still live?
All right, I'm looking at the Facebook feed, and it says we're still live.
Very cool. Okay, good. All right, see. And do I have... Let me turn the mic on, or the right settings for the camera. And there we go. Are we live? Yeah. It says we're live here, so let me know. You can hear Scott. Okay, good. So that means we're live. We're back live. I don't know what was happening behind the scenes there, but hey, we're back. You should be able to see him in 2 seconds, Gord. There's a little bit of a delay. Wow, that's just so cool. That's the first time that's really happened. All right, cool. And by the way, it was not Ecamm's fault. It was totally my fault. I was switching the wrong thing. I was switching the speaker and not the camera setting. So all the blame on me. Can you tell it's been one of those days? My God. All right. So let's get rolling, man. I mean, we're talking about focus and clarity today, the two of the missing keys to your success. So let me ask you again, Scott, what about focus? Like any inside tips, any quick tips before we get into the actual presentation?
Well, yeah. After 12 weeks of Atlas with a focus and commitment to clarity and getting clarity by committing to something and studying it. And part of that 12 weeks, Joey, was my discipline of starting from stop each day, which was getting focused on dream life and clarity on dream life and zone of genius. And that just became an important piece of the last few months. And to me, focus and clarity is the think time. And all the stuff is what we talk about. Was what if I got focus in think time and clarity from that, rather than jumping into the to dos of life and getting so wrapped up in it, and then being okay, yeah, I got to take some time and focus and clarity. And then again, my son was here today. Wonderful. I got to spend a few hours at Dream Client, got to spend a bunch of time with my son, do some way cool stuff, and then be here. So it's like a trifecta of a perfect day. And Scotty was like, Dad, what are you talking about tonight? I was like, stuff. I'll find out when we get on the show. And that's how you started it. Was we're going to talk about stuff tonight on our show. But yeah, focus and clarity, to me, somebody asked me today, how do I do that? And I kind of taught him how I did it and went through the process of it. So it looks like you have a presentation ready to go, Joey. So take it away.
Yeah, let's do this. I'm going to go through this real quick. And like I said, this was something that I just dug up from when I first started coaching around 10 years ago or whatever it was. So forgive some of the cheesy little pictures that are in there. So, but anyway, it'll still land. I'm pretty sure that it'll land what we're talking about here. And by the way, let us know if you have questions or any feedback, or maybe as we go through it, any relevance to this that you want to talk about with your business, because this is an all around conversation. So we'd love to get some feedback from you watching us right now. Thank you. So this is one of the things that I loved teaching, because as you know, Scott, like you were doing with Atlas, like you learn it and you go teach it, right? And
Right.
when I was blessed to work with John Asaraf in my first coaching experience, he was in the group quite a bit, and I learned a lot from him. And this is one of the biggest things that I took from him, and I would always talk about this with my clients. And this, it's still relevant. And like it's not going to lose relevance, but like, how did you get here? And so this is all about, like, when you were looking at focus, everything that you do is about your beliefs, habits, and your values. That's 96% of like what you do and what you operate. And it's where you are today. So your thoughts and decisions are all based on your beliefs, your habits, and your values. So your forget the financial result thingy, because that was more of talking to the real estate investors and the who I was coaching at the time. So if there's any if there's any reference to real estate or finances or stuff like that, that's why you're seeing it in these slides. So this is, I want you to keep in mind your beliefs, your habits, and your values. If you change those three things, you will be able to get so much more done. And this is where I started. I started with my beliefs, and it was, do I believe that I could do something in the future, or stepping into fear? And a lot of people have this where they, and you hear me talk about this quite a bit before, as we talk about like whatever we talk about, overwhelm or stepping into fear, right, Scott? And I say that I can tell that how someone is going to be successful or not, it just by the way that their belief system is. I believe that everything comes right down to beliefs, period. No if, ands, or but about it. You can talk about what you're going to do. You can talk about all the kind of things, but when the crap hit the fan, it's your belief, it's your faith, whatever word you want to use, it's your courage, whatever it is that pulls you forward, that challenges your true character. And it's that if you don't have a belief in you and what you're doing and whatever it is, doesn't matter what you say. And that's where this kind of made sense to me, like looking at these three things that we had to change. Now, any thoughts on that, Scott, before we move on?
No, I'm in full agreement with the whole beliefs thing. Whether you call it faith or belief, but it has to start with, do you believe you can do whatever it is you're going to do? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in others? Do you believe in whatever it is?
Yeah.
It all starts from that as a foundation. And if you don't believe it, then everything else is for naught. So continue, please.
Amazing. And by the way, the, like, if you're looking at this slide, the habits is where, like, the next thing for me, and this is where I think we're gonna have a lot of discussion around it today about what the habits are. But think about this: if you're watching this right now, you're looking at this, and I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. Just put it in the chat if you agree, disagree, or whatever. Like, but everything that's happening to you today is because of these three things. And something's not aligned, and you have to change one or probably all of them, that they have to align. So we'll move on. And I'm going to ask, people are asking, like, what is clarity? They always ask, what is clarity? And to me, clarity is, go figure, knowing exactly what to focus on and why you do what you do. You also have to know what business you're in. And that means the business with who your dream clients are. And it's also where your target niche is. So if you have dream clients, well, where are your target niche? How are you going to talk to them and communicate with them, and how to systemize your business? This is what clarity is about. And this is the stuff that I focus in on when I'm helping someone build their business outside of just focusing on niche dream clients and getting that kind of clarity. But even Steve Harv Eker, if you read The Secrets of Millionaire Mind, did you read that, Scott?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he says the number one reason that people don't get what they want is because they don't know what they want. And it's so clear. Like, you see that all the time. Like, well, what is it that you want? And they have no idea what they're looking for. Right. And that's why, if you go back to even when we talk about dream client DNA or the anti-avatar, it's like, well, I don't know who my dream client is. And that's why we introduced the anti-avatar, not only because, well, you want to know who that other person is or the opposite is, but, well, let's focus on what you don't want then. If you don't know what you want, then let's focus on what you don't want. And I find it a lot
So,
easier, even when I
Joe,
was just doing
the
normal stuff.
would you go back to the clarity slide again, please, Joey,
Definitely.
if you wouldn't mind? When was this done, this slide?
2014.
Well, I'm just looking at the fourth bullet. I mean, I know you've
No,
been
okay,
talking.
so let me okay. That used to say customers. It's the only thing I changed today. So yeah.
But it's the same thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it said your customers, and I'll admit that, but that I changed that slide because I was trying to do a little bit of edits and trying to take out some of the older stuff. But yeah, it was still there. The thought was still there.
I just wanted to focus back on this because you should put this somewhere. What is clarity? Because you've got these 6 points that really do define what clarity is. And going to T. Harv Eker's, yeah, people don't know what they want. Is people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. I totally agree with you. I play with people all the time, and it's like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? They're like, I don't know. Yeah, you do. No,
Yeah.
I don't. It's like, yeah, you do. You just haven't thought about it, or you don't want to think about it. So again, you and I use the same thing. If I could wave the magic wand today and you could be doing anything you want, what would it be? That goes back to belief. I believe that I can do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Great.
I'm gonna just change this other current application here so we can get both of us on screen. There we go. Cool.
Cool.
Okay, so focus. Let's talk about a little bit about focus. It is the key. Like, I think it's one of the biggest keys to moving towards any kind of success. And here's the thing, like, when you're stuck without focus, you don't know what's missing. And this is huge. Like, just think about what that says. A lot of people tell me that they're not focused. And what they do is they pivot, they move out. And I don't know if this stuff is coming up in the slides. I haven't seen these in a million years, so I probably talk about this later on, maybe. But the reason is, as soon as someone's stuck, they hit a wall or whatever it is, whatever analogy you want to use, they pivot and they don't know. And so if you're not focused, then you don't know what's missing, and you just disregard it. You're like, that didn't work, or this is not working for me. I'm going to go over here. And to that point, I don't think this is in the slides, but to that point, when I was teaching this or coaching people on this, the whole analogy of the road, and you see the horizon, or you want the mountain down there, right? And people would say, I'm driving down this road. And I would insert, you know what? We don't want to drive on a road. We want to be on train tracks. So the train tracks, you can't jump off the train tracks unless you want to die, right?
Right.
So, but you're still going in the same direction. You're still seeing all of the distractions and the cool towns and all that stuff passing you by, but you can't get off the tracks unless the train stops, right? But on a road, you could easily divert. Oh, that's a cool town. I'm going to go over there. And that's the analogy that I used to use and say, this is what you're doing. You might think you're driving down the road, and maybe you see the road, but you're, as soon as you see some distraction, another town or whatever cool thing that you want to veer off to, you can easily turn the car and go. So back to this, which is the if you don't know, if you don't have a focus and you veer off whatever you're doing, you don't know what's missing. And the missing piece is what's going to get you to the next piece of success. You can't find that component that's broken in the current model. And this is all the deeper stuff that I do with people is like, I'm stubborn. I'm going to keep on going. Like, no, don't let this go. We need to figure out what is stopping you. What is the thing you're tripping over? Any insight there?
Well, I love what you've got up here, Joey, is because the first bullet is you don't know what's missing. Conversely, you don't know what's not working. You just know that it's not working.
Mhm.
And it's like after Atlas and a focus of the whole process and the whole methodology, I can go look at something and say, okay, which piece isn't working? Did the
Mhm.
pre-flow piece not work? Did the invite not work? Is the message navigator not working? Is the invite not working? There's all these defined pieces that focused on, and it's not like, you know what, this whole thing isn't working, so let me go try writing a sales letter and drive some traffic. It's like, no, what piece of this? And it's always going to come back to one of the pieces. And when you're focused on something and you have that clarity, that focus
Mhm.
and clarity piece, you can go back and look at it and say, okay, here's the old way was, well, I only got 10,800 clicks on my Facebook ad. And of that, I only had, this many actually looked at the thing. And then I only had this many people opt in. And of the ones that opt in, here's how many people actually clicked the offer. And of those, two people bought and one refunded. And then it's like, okay, how do I go back and focus on what was wrong? I have no clue what to focus on what was wrong because everything about that model, in my opinion, now is wrong. How can I find the components that are broken when the components don't work to begin with, as opposed to a framework, system, process, formula that I can go back and say, okay, I know this thing works, but which part of it didn't? And going to the second bullet, I can find the component that's broken if the model is sound.
Yeah, and that's where so many people divert. That's the biggest thing that I see
Yeah,
is this isn't working. It's frustrating. I get that. Um, and they just go try something else, build a new product, serve a different, like look for a different client or what new niche, like
yep,
whatever. It's just, and this is why this is not just focus on daily things. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up, but it's more about stick to the plan because, Thomas Edison would not have invented the light bulb had he
right.
given up on the first time. Well, that's just something that didn't work. Okay, on to the next one. And that's how you find the missing piece or success, if you want to call it. And here's the thing about focus. This is what I found, and it's still true to this day. But back then, it was like so many people would tell me, I need to find focus. And I go, you can't find it. Like it doesn't appear. Focus, you don't go into a room and watch a couple of slides like this, and all of a sudden you got focus.
Well, when you go find your dream clients, your focus is with your dream clients when you go find them.
Yeah, it's like you
Obviously, hold on, Joey. Ding, ding, ding. Sarcasm. You don't find dream clients, they find you. So both statements were flawed. When you find
Mhm.
your dream clients, the focus will be there. No, they find you when you're focused on what it is you're going to do. And going right back to this is when you're focused on the dream client and a dream business and a dream life. And if that's the focus and there's nothing that gets in the way of that, well, then it's what you're supposed to be doing. And
Mhm.
because the machine, the mechanism, the form, whatever it is hasn't worked yet, that doesn't change your focus on what it is. And once you've defined who that is,
Right.
you don't stop. You figure it out.
Yeah, whatever it is you're doing, whether it's dream clients or the business, it
Right.
hasn't worked for a year. Like, you know what? Keep going. Like, that's what this is about. Because if you lack clarity, if you lack focus, then what happens is you end up working harder. You work longer hours that are just not matched by any kind of return that you receive on anything. Then you just kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier about the Facebook ad or something, right? It's like, well, I've done this. And it's, because here's another thing. Well, this actually brings, now that I have data on this, because this is when I was first starting to coach, this brings up a point, which is I've had coaching clients come in. who've coached before, or they've even forget the coaches. They've just been in the business for, let's call it 5 years. Okay. Hasn't worked. Then we get together and then it still doesn't work for another year because we're unlearning and we're ripping things apart and rebuilding. Right. And it's normal human nature to think, I've been at this thing for 6 years. It's still not working. And
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that I'm being blamed, but there is a little bit of like, this is not even working with you, right? It's only been a year, right? But they've been trying something for 5 years. So what happens is this is where this mentality, this is what's happening. They're working longer, harder hours of trying all those other things that didn't work. And then they're thinking, well, and they don't see the smaller results that's happening. And even though they're getting results, it's not up to their level of what they think should be happening in the short period of time. And I even remember a client who we would get, this kind of happened, and we're no longer working together. And that's the reason why. But it was like, wins. I go, what's the win? And we'd get the win, and then we'd celebrate the win, or I go, this is amazing. And then they'd say, yeah, but, and that was like, what do you mean, yeah, but, you know? And every win was like, yeah, but it's not that. But that's what you said you wanted 2 months ago, and now we got it. So let's kind of celebrate the little pieces. And it was very, very frustrating. So that's an anti-avatar, by the way,
Yeah,
for
it's
me.
fun. Jumping into that, I was talking about the immutable laws today with my dream client and
Mhm.
asking her to put hers in, and I've got mine pretty well. But I want to jump back in what we're doing here, and I think the wild west of the internet's to blame because
Mm.
back then you just didn't matter. I could take, this scrap of paper, write something on it, and put it up as an ebook and sell it, and have all my buddies market it and make thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I like to go back about 4 or 5,000 years ago when King Dozier, he was the pharaoh, he hired his buddy Imhotep to build him the first pyramid. And I'm sure at some point in the process of building the pyramids, which are still here, one of the stones broke or something didn't go well, or a myriad of challenges. And guess what? It took years. Anything that we know that's anything has taken years to build.
Yeah.
And again, going back to, oh, the difference between push button overnight, sitting on the beach drinking pina coladas, watching your PayPal Stripe balance grow, and taking a period of time to build and grow. Any normal business, I told you I built a couple of different restaurants from the ground up, basically, and it took me a long time to start losing money, months
Yeah.
to spend a lot of money to then lose more money. Whereas here, it's building something that is going to last, that
Yeah.
doesn't cost a fortune. I
Yeah.
mean, both businesses, 100 grand in each. I spent 2 years with a software company to go in debt 60 grand.
Hmm.
And it's like the when you have focus and clarity on everything that you're doing, whatever happens, it's okay because you go right back to the model, the formula, the process. But if you don't have one, yeah, then you're going to go back and say, well, let me pivot. Let me see if I can find a new market, a new audience, a new JV partner, a new something, a new scam. And it only makes it harder. And then you end up worse off.
Hmm. That's right on. Thank you. So back to this. The If you lock the clarity, like it says, like you're working longer, you're working harder, but also decisions become more difficult. So if this is resonating with you, if you have challenges with decisions, it's always coming back to lack of clarity, lack of focus. And what happens is you're losing the balance in your life because you're always chasing those other things. You're chasing the new dreams, just like Scott just said. Well, this didn't work. I'm going to go get a new JV partner. I'm going to start another company, whatever it is. And so you're always chasing these new things, and it's a constant battle. And so what happens is, what I've learned is to start focusing with chunking down with focus blocks, and start chunking with, the way I do them is 50 to 50-minute blocks, and anywhere between 50 and 80 minutes will work. So if you're working on some kind of project or something like this, chunk them down. Chunking, I first learned from Tony Robbins when I was 16 years old, way back then. So I'm going to credit him for that idea. It probably came from somewhere else. Maybe he learned from Jim Rohn, who he learned from, whatever. I don't know. But I'm going to credit Tony and do one task or project within that 50-minute task block and eliminate all distractions. This is still relevant today. I know that Dean Jackson talks a lot about the 50-minute focus. I learned through him as well, through Eben Pagan. So there's a whole bunch of great information on, the 50-minute focus, if you want to Google that. But this is something that I changed in my life back then when I first started teaching this again and using it. And I still do it to this day. And I still use the physical timer. I have it on my Mac. It's going. And so I'm doing 4 to 5 or 4 to 6 focus sessions. You call them Pomodoros. They are Pomodoros. I just call them focus sessions. And it just changed my life. I know you have some stuff to say about this.
Oh, no doubt about it. You and I have talked about this a lot. Not only have you and I talked about this a lot, I don't know how many hundreds of hours you and I have put in together
Right.
Doing focus blocks / Pomodoros, both on our own stuff and then together stuff, whether it was playing with your stuff or my stuff or unpacking a book we read or the 3-minute rule by Brian Piffet or something we were excited about. We're like, okay. And yeah, the power of it. I told you that I spent months building like animated video programs for my training programs way back then when I thought you were to build a program and then go try and like whack-a-mole and hit people over the head to buy your stuff and figure out how
that
to
didn't
buy.
work?
No, it didn't work. There's no sensible path to do it that way other than spending tons of money to find people that you really don't love at the end of the day and really don't want to engage with.
Yeah.
But you can. Anyway, yeah. Anytime I need to get anything done, it's like, hey, Joey, let's do a bunch of these. I got to get this thing done. I have to get this done. And if you haven't tried it, go look up Focus Block, go look up Pomodoro. And what I have found most useful is there were like a few months when every day I got on and I put out to our group. We had a little mastermind group going of Kajabi people in the beginning. I was like, Pomo today from whatever till whatever, and then yoga, and I'm going to do some more. And people jumped on, and the accountability piece. And I know my buddy Nick in London, he pays to like belong to one where anytime you can just jump in and be accountable. And that's the key to it. And I used to do different times, but when you and I started doing it, 50 minutes and the important piece too is when the timer says your 5-minute break, take the 5-minute break.
Yeah, and that's the other piece I forgot to put up there is the break. So that last piece is get up and move around for 10 minutes or whatever it is. And because what I do is like again, I literally changed my life. I remember being coached with the first time I was with Eben back then, and he said this, and I was flying home, and I just put it into implementation like that week, and he said, "Look, just do one of these." Like just do one now in this week and see how much your productivity goes up. Like, sorry, not one a day, one a day for the next week and see how much your productivity goes up by 80%. And I didn't believe him. And I was astonished by what it did. And I became addicted to them. And as you know, I do them like every single day. It's part of my day. And they're not at set times, but basically my time is between 10 and 12 that I'm doing at least those 2 hours right there. And so the 10-minute timer thing, again, I credit Eben for this one. I do a 10-10. It's called a 50-50-20, which means 50 minutes, and then a 10-minute break, and then another 50 minutes, and then a 20-minute break. So that means, think about this, in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, you have a 30-minute break, and you've got 2 hours worth of focus work done. If you just did that once a day, imagine how much you can get done.
And, Joey, when I was we do like 40 minutes or 45 minutes, and the Pomodoro timer had a 5-minute break. And after 3 of them, it was a 15-minute.
Right.
Regardless. And, when you and I do them, we take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And Sometimes I try and break it and keep going, and you're like, "No, bro, 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay,
you need
right."
to get up.
But the thing I would do too, Joey, is I would look and say, "Okay, I've got to get this thing done. I can probably do it in 3 pomos."
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, "Okay." And I'd look at my things that needed to be done and say, "Here's so many pomodoros. I can get this done today."
Yeah,
And
and I want to talk to that for a second too, because this was the mindset shift that I had. Because when you're looking at time blocking or chunking or whatever you want to call it, um, the argument that I had was, well, this is going to take longer than 1 hour or 2 hours or three, so I wouldn't do it. And what I gave myself permission to do was just do 1 hour. Like I'm gonna use bookkeeping as an example because I hate it so much. So it was like, I don't want to do this. Okay, but just do the 1 hour and then you're off. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. You just go do something else. And that's the key part of this is let you, I gave myself permission to not, I don't have to go back to the same task doing another 50 minutes. But what happens is usually my brain's like, well, that wasn't so bad, bro. Like, let's go back and finish another chunk of this, right? And so if you're looking at this thinking, well, Joey, this is not going to work for me because this is like a month long project, eh, just chunk it to 1 hour,
yeah.
and you'll slowly get there. Believe me.
And the other thing too, Joey, just to reinforce, is the third bullet. You've got to shut everything off. You can't
Hmm.
be having Facebook open and your phone dinging and people interrupting you. It's got to be like, okay, everybody, I'm down
Right on.
for whatever, for whether it's 50 or whether it's the next X number of hours. I'll be up from my thing by 2 o'clock. Leave me alone. And it's just amazing when you shut it all off. And by the way, those of you that are watching live, hashtag live. Those of you watching the replay, hashtag replay. Let ESPs, ISPs, everybody out there, the gods of the universe, know that you like what we're talking about, and they'll look at us a little bit better. And for those of you that haven't joined the club, the group, the Heart Centered Marketing Club. Joey, you could put the link up for that while we're at it here in this Y50 minute slide, and then you can continue.
Thank you, man. Thank you for that. Appreciate you. And yeah, let us know if you're enjoying this. Give us a thumbs up or a heart or smash the bell wherever you're watching this, and let us know. And just if you have any questions, please put them in the comments because I'd love to answer them as well. The question that comes up a lot for me is why 50 minutes? And the 50 minutes is because your brain is able to properly focus naturally for about an hour. That's why in the previous one I said 50 to 80 minutes. And this is not me. I learned this from The Power of Focus. I forget who the authors are, but not The Power of Focus, I'm sorry. The Power of Full Engagement. That's a great book, Power of Full Engagement. And this is where it all came from. And I think even Eben learned it from there. I don't know. But anyway, it's 50 to 80 minutes, where your brain can focus, and you think after that point, which is where Scott was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go for another. Let's not do the 50 minutes or 5 minute break." I'm like, "No, man, your brain needs to just unpack a little bit." And I know this because I've done it all the way through. Like I've done hours and hours and hours of sitting, not moving, and just doing it, but you're not really productive anymore. You're thinking you're doing stuff, but it's not really happening, and that's why you need that break. It's super super important. And then doing just one power, like I just talked about this, one focus block per day will increase your productivity by 80%. And all you do, there's that 50-50-20. See, I was ahead of myself here. The 50-50-20, that's what I just explained now. So the question is, where do you want to be? Most entrepreneurs start without any direction whatsoever. They're like, I don't know. And that was me. I'm like, whatever. I want to be, I want to make a lot of money, or I want to build my business, but they don't have any clarity. And the first step towards clarity is knowing where you want to end up. And I've always had trouble with this one. It's um like building the steps backwards. I know where I kind of want to go. And if you ask me, like, where do I want to go? It's like, well, I'm going to go do this. But the problem for me was this part, starting at the end and working myself backwards. I've always had problems with this. I still have problems with this. Like we talk about this even in the chain of beliefs, right? And you see
Mhm.
people have this challenge, which is like, okay, where do you want to end up? And what's the steps in between? And I don't know about you, Scott. Do you have trouble with the steps, like working yourself backwards? Like, how do you work?
I really don't because I teach it so much, and that's what I play with people all the time. And
Mm,
I learned that from Glenn Livingston years ago
yeah,
in coaching is, okay, where do you want to be? Let's talk about where you want to be. Okay, what has to happen before that? What has to happen before that and before that? And just going back to present time. And I play with future Scott and present Scott and ego Scott and have conversations. And it starts out as, where do you want to be? Okay, in order to get there, what do we have to do? How do we have to map it out? And you do it extremely well in Atlas, and you've done it in other places. Is, how much money you want to make? I want to make $100,000. Well, okay, let's break it down.
yeah,
If you have, this many people in your cohort, you had 10 people in your cohort, and they paid $3,000, that's $30,000. Okay, so you have to do that 3.25 times a year in order for you to make your $100,000.
right.
Same, I want to do this, and here's so many people, and here's how much I'm going to charge, and this is what the focus is. I want to only focus on helping my dream clients, and my dream clients, and my dream clients. I love saying that. It's just such a cool when you get to that point. And I posted in the group one day, and it really is. But when you truly can look at the end and say, here's where I want to get to, and that's the conversation with future Scott. And I don't know which book that came out of or which conversation. It wasn't me. It wasn't you. It could have been, who knows how many. We read so many books in the last couple of months and talked about them.
Yeah, it's Be Your Future Self Now from Ben Hardy.
Okay. Yep. There you
Yeah.
go.
So I don't know who this is, but they were surprisingly did a challenge to do 30 minutes of minimum market dream client research and got so much done. Yeah. So like anything that you can put focus on and eliminate distractions, you're going to be so much further ahead. And then if you see that result, then you just start adding one more, one more, one more. And like I said, it's part of my day. I just can't deal with my day without doing a 50-minute, at least one 50-minute focus. All right.
That was Lorna.
Lorna. Okay, cool. I don't know why she's not showing up, but thank you, Lorna. Good to see you, Narcissa. Thank you for everyone for being here in the comments, by the way. And comments, questions, anything you got going on, put them in the chat. That'd be amazing. All right, cool. So this is a really cool question, which is if you looking at lack of focus and because I used to challenge people all the time, like just focus, focus, focus. And these are we're just sharing ideas of how to become more focused. And one of the things is I'd ask them, what are you willing to fight for? What is it? And people are easily distracted and influenced by others when their results is not specific to them. And it goes back to, well, what's your why? Why are you doing this? Right. But it's what are you willing to fight for? And for me, a lot of the times the biggest fight for me, and I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know about you, Scott. Think about because I'm going to ask you what yours is. Like for me, what I'm fighting for is to not lose the current freedom that I've already have. Period. That's it. Like I want more. I want to make more money. I want to impact the world. I want better a dream life and all these other kind of things. But the real thing I'm fighting for, the real thing, is to not lose the freedom I've already got. I want more freedom, but I'm happy with what I've got so far. If I was, you know, if the universe said, that's it, where you are is where you are you happy with this? I'm like, cool, right? What is it for
Yeah.
you? What are you willing to fight for? And by the way, I'm asking this to everyone listening right now and watching. Put it into the chat if you want to play along.
Well, it's easy. What I fight for every day is the life I have, which is yoga and playing with yoga and helping with yoga and living yoga. And that to me that's more freedom to do that, to not have to, money and freedom. So it's the same thing as you, Joey. It's if they said, okay, this is all you got, I'd be like, I'm good with everything. I just need a little more money.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
So to me, it's about, I do what I do. Somebody wanted to hire me to come do something with their company. And I said, I'll help you with some stuff, but it's got to be in this office and this life in this yoga studio. I said, I don't want to give this up. This is my life.
Right.
And you find it. I live my dream life. I come, I hang out with yogis, I do yoga. I tell the dream clients, I hang out with you. I get to be with people. I get to do what I want to do in Einstein time. And that to me is, I want more of it.
Yeah.
don't want the the financial piece to put a damper on anything.
Right. And I think that it's important to know for you watching this is what you're willing to fight for. And, I remember talking about this a lot because the result that I'm looking for it's powerful for me that I don't want to ever have to go get a job. I will do everything to fight. If my business fails, it's not like, well, that's it. I'm going to go get another job. And I'm not saying that that's wrong because some people will do that. And
Right.
my wife is one of them. She's like, well, this didn't work. I'm going to go work at McDonald's or sweep floors and do whatever it takes to put food on the table. Right. And she's a way better person than me because I'm like, I'm going to fight. I'm going to start another business or I'm going to do something. I'm fighting for the freedom. I don't want to go and work for anybody else. That's what it is for me. And it's going to be different for you. It's going to be different for everybody watching this. And it's so important because you're either fixing someone else's problem or you're solving your own. And think about that. You're either fixing someone else's problem or you're solving your own. So let's get into habits and routines. The successful people, they have a routine and they install positive habits. That's where this all started for me with John. It was, okay, well, if I'm waking up and people are asking me, dude, how's your day? And I'm like, yeah, same crap,
Yeah.
different day,
Yeah.
right? That was my attitude and habit. I'm like, okay, so maybe I should start doing this positive mental reshift in my brain, and that's where that habit started, and haven't looked back, right? Um, they also develop these positive internal habits they say no to distractions. I can't tell you how many people I meet or talk to every single day that are totally distracted and they don't even know it. And
Mhm.
I'm one of them. So I do talk to myself I know it's me because I've heard my voice before, but it's also at the same time like we're all distracted. It's just being in control of that distraction.
Mhm.
And that's why in that other slide it was turn off all your distractions. Don't let this guy get in the way of your distraction and don't add to the distractions, right? Um, as well, there's a big difference between action and production. And this is what I'm talking about when it comes to sitting there. Oh, I can go for another 90. I can go for another 2 hours.
Mhm.
There, your action, you're doing stuff, you're typing on the keyboard, but you're not really being productive.
Right.
So that keep that in mind. And so where are you today? There's always this point where you need to be, where you are and where you want to be. And to get to point B, you must know where point A is. And again, many of us don't know where that point A is. Where are you right now? What's happening right now? Because they're all over the place. They're not distracted. Let me just see what Narcissa says. Same, but needed more finance to maintain and serve more. Yeah, and the way you do that is by focus. By focus. So maybe you can elaborate on what that means a little bit more, Narcissa, and we can definitely talk about that with you.
But thank you for playing the home game, Narcissa. We
Yeah,
appreciate you and
thank you.
all of you that show up here Tuesday nights. What is it, Joey? Episode
140 today, man. uh
436. That means, like, again, I guess by the end of the year, we'll be coming up to 140. And let's see, 51, 56, 16 weeks. So 4 more months.
wow.
Hits us to 3 years of playing this home game version.
Love it, man.
Where are you today? And Joey, I want to bring something up here because it's about beliefs, habits, and values.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that I went through Atlas as a student and invested time and resources and into learning it from the student's viewpoint. And as you know, as you mentioned, I've been teaching it as well because I integrate it with what I do because it makes so much sense after doing this marketing, online, interweb thingy stuff for the better part now of 35 years and reading and going through everything that we have. And I finished Atlas, and I didn't decide what my program was, but I do know who my dream client is, and that gets solidified. And to be able to go out there and teach it and help and see it all manifest And again, not have to be, oh my God, I have to launch something. I have to have a product. I have to. There's a fine line between, well, should I launch something now or this or uh, just the fact that it was 3 months of investing everything in it to understand a whole new way. I went and got my bachelor's degree. It took me 2.5 years, my master's degree, a year, my associates, whatever, a couple of years. I invested 5 or 6 years in my education, and that was a lot of money and time in that. And to then have to build my career, which ended up in hospitality marketing, just I had no clue where it was. And then it took a long time to become somebody, become the guru, the expert in the industry. And this, I just want to reiterate to people that if you're looking for the quick fix and the overnight push button, then we're probably not the guys to listen to. But if you want to learn how to get focus and clarity in your life and truly build a business, and like Joey's here, a dream life and dream clients and a dream business, and fight for this lifestyle. And I love talking about Einstein time. I fight for Einstein time. I fight to not have to ascribe to somebody else's time constraints of my life. And that's what I fight for as well. So thank you for bringing this on the show tonight. It's really important. This is super important. The focus, the clarity, the how to do it. And that's what I love about what we do on Tuesday nights is we talk about it. We tell them how to do it. We give the tools that are working. It's not like, yeah, we read about this cool thing called focus blocks and the article says you do this. It's like, no, everything that you and I talk about, we live, we breathe, we do, we screw up, we mess up. And I love the quote you put in there from, what was it, Jen Kern, I think, or
Oh yeah. What's her name? I forgot her last name now. But in the group you're talking about.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
group. But it was like one day I saw somebody Belcher, and I thought it was Perry somebody or other. You posted something in the group that was extremely powerful today, and it was along those lines of, gosh, uh, success isn't about what worked; it's about how you handled it when it didn't.
Right.
In this world of online digital entrepreneurship, it's figuring out what works for you,
Right.
because even Atlas, and I'll use it because I just went through it and I love it. And I won't even talk about what I talked about earlier
Thank
when we
you.
weren't recording. I'll save that for another time. But the fact is that it's learning a whole new way of living, doing business, and there's so many elements of it. Like, again, you said earlier, if you're not focused on your dream client and you're trying to do everything else, then you miss the boat. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
That goes back to getting clarity. Okay, well, maybe I need to get clarity. The chain of beliefs, we brought that in here. The end, what's the end in mind? Well, the end is I want them, that I am the only option for them to help get their yoga business up and running, online, successful, blah, blah, transfer their work online.
Right.
And when we go through it, it's like, okay, no, I haven't launched and gotten 10 people to give me 5 grand and made $50,000 today. But there's some other things that are all related to this. Like I said, when I built my businesses, I spent like a long time and a lot of money there, contractors, building and that to open up to lose more money for a while. And what's being built here? It's Jennifer Kern, so I was right. And what we're doing here when we get the focus and the clarity is realizing, going back to the pyramids, they didn't say, oh, one of the stones broke, we're never going to build a pyramid, let's forget it, let's go build a water tower instead.
Yeah.
It was like, no, let's just keep going. So
And
go.
that's where their point B is. They know where their point B is. And so I just want to continue here. Between you and point B, there was one challenge right now. And this is where focus comes in. This is Like I'm so addicted to this kind of stuff. This is what I help people do. This is what I'm really good at helping clients do. Even
Yep.
when it comes to Atlas and all that, what's the component that's missing right now? But
Right.
in a bigger scope, it is, like I said, I have challenges sometimes with the bigger picture. Like, okay, I want all that stuff, and I'm like, that's cool. And sometimes I can't see it for myself or whatever, or even another person. I can see it, but I'm not, here's how to build all that out, because I know something's going to fail, but they're tripping over the thing that's right in front of them, and that's what's the challenge. What's the challenge right now that you're going through, and let's figure that out and identify and conquer that piece. You look at the obstacles and figure out a system so it doesn't happen again. And this is like, I mean, we can talk. This one thing we can talk about a whole show just on that one
Well,
bullet.
there's no doubt about that,
Right.
Joey, because that's the foundation of everything. You've heard me say years ago when I wanted to do a program or a seminar or a workshop, I would just like call people up and go, "What are the three biggest challenges you're facing right now?" And they would tell me. I said, "Who else should I talk to?" And three biggest challenges. And then it came down to, okay, what's the biggest challenge you're facing right now? Really cool. Tell me about what that's like when that challenge exists and how you feel and this and that. What have you tried to do? And you want some help with that? Uh huh. Okay. There. Once you fix that piece, then it's like, well, nobody knows who I am. I don't have any dream clients. Okay. Well, there's your first obstacle, prefluence. Let's handle that. Let's knock that out of the way. So you knock that out of the way. Now all of a sudden people are like, hey, I like what you're saying and this and blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, I got to communicate with them. So let me get them into a lead magnet and into an autoresponder sequence. It's like, wrong answer. Now we need to go look at how do you communicate with them like a natural human being with messages, and there's the next obstacle out of the way, and you just keep knocking them out of the way. And that's what I like what you do, Joey. It's not like, okay, here's the 87 things we need to fix. What do you got to fix first?
Yeah, and even just before this call, I responded to a post in Kajabi around this whole building the business thing out, and you know, the person was confused about, like, do I do it organic? There's all these ways and all these things, and like, what's the goal? Like, what's the goal for the next by the end of this year?
Right.
And that's all I want to know, right? Not right now. And then they were like, well, confused about how do I take this thing? How do I scale it? How do I build an audience? Like all these things. I'm like,
Yeah.
what's the one thing that you want to accomplish like right now? And they were like, well, just want to make a couple dollars over zero. I'm like, great. Then let's focus on, you know, forget about scale, forget about building audiences. Do you not have 5 to 20 people in your life right now that you could bring in and do the beta thingy and get yourself the over the $0 mark? And it's like, oh my God, that's so simple. Yeah, it's that simple, because this is where I find most people are. And there's nothing wrong with it, because it's great by thinking, well, I don't understand how to scale this thing. Like, how do I bring in a bigger audience and all these things? I get it, but that's what holds people back. Most people that I deal with, and I'd bring them back to ground zero. Look, like, forget the audience right now. Like, if you're going to build a big audience, like, just deal with this right now and get your program ready to go and all these other things. It's just about the immediate focus. And that's true for everybody listening to this. Like, I'm sure that you're tripping over something right now and you're looking outward, you're not looking down.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of the most important things. Look at the obstacles and figure out a system, or fix that and then figure out a system that's going to work. And here's the thing, the sigmoid curve. You heard me talk about this a billion times. And this is it. If you've never seen this before, people call this um the upside down S, or whatever it is, like the slanted S. But this is what I'm talking about, the sigmoid curve. And if you heard me talk about this before, I realize that when someone learns something or they're excited about something for whatever reason, it's like, I'm going to start an online business. Yahoo! I'm going to get out of my job. They don't realize that that's the peak point of their at this time. They're at the peak, and they go into this learning phase, but they don't realize they're on their way down. They think they're on their way up because they're learning new things and all these, oh, this is amazing, and they're getting into it, and they're being bombarded with all these things, and it feels exciting. But in actuality, the learning phase is on the downward slope towards the first dip, the first crash. And once I realized this, it totally like I it was helping me understand where my clients would be, because I knew that in 3 months from whenever they started working with me, that they're not going to be most of them are not going to be further. It's because they're learning and they're unlearning and they're changing things, and is like and then they get to the point where the real learning begins, which is the growth phase. That's the
Joey, I
phase.
remember when I was contemplating going for my master's degree, and I talked to Lee Dixon, Colonel Dixon, and he was the assistant dean. And I said, "Why should I get my master's degree?" He says, "Because after you get your master's in 3 to 5 years, you're going to watch your career skyrocket." And it wasn't like when you graduate with your master's degree, you're going to go out. It's like in 3 to 5 years, that thing is going to make all the difference.
Right.
That learning phase was years. And the learning phase in anything new, and I don't care. Yeah, I talk about Atlas because I love it and it's great and it works and it's proven. But whatever system, even if you go, study at another system, and there's other good systems out there.
Yeah.
It isn't the only one. There's a lot of good people out there that teach good stuff and different methods and formulas and that. But you don't just finish it and you graduated and now you're a raging success. And if anyone promises you that, I think that's a bunch of BS. I was
Yeah,
talking
run.
about today, the BS meter is, what is it here that could be considered BS?
Mhm.
So you don't put it in. There's so much in what we're talking about tonight, Joey,
Yeah,
that
I think the biggest thing for anybody here listening to this right now, and if you take one thing away from this one slide, is understand that wherever you are on the high of like this is amazing, your the universe is going to test you. It's pushing you down. You just don't see it yet,
yep,
and that's when you hit that dip. I'll go to the next slide, which is like Seth Godin talks about this. It's an amazing book, by the way. Buy that. This is where everybody gives up. Like that's the bottom of the sigmoid curve, right? That's where everybody gives up. They're like, this is not working,
yeah,
and but they're right at the beginning of the growth phase. And this is what I've discovered working with so many people over all these years. And when I first started coaching, it was very frustrating because I would give them, 3 months and then make a choice if you want to continue to go and all these other things. And not a lot of them really moved on. They were like, this isn't working because I was doing my job, but I didn't know that I was doing my job right, which is helping them unpack and unlearn and all these things. And I thought I was a failure as a coach. Then I learned this and studied it even more, and I kept it to myself. I'm like, okay, and I would try to not bring this into their attention that you're on your way down and you're going to probably 90% of you, like if I'm talking to 10 of them, are probably going to be um you're not going to be where you want to be in 3 months. You're probably going to be worse than you are in 3 months, and that's not a really good selling point for like coaching or whatever it is
your
at that
life's
point.
going to suck a lot more
Yeah, it's
once
like
you give me $4,000 in 3 months. I can promise you that.
yeah.
So, Joey, I'm going to take over here again because I can.
You bet.
Um, Obviously, the learning phase that I went through for 12 weeks with the gang, the Atlas crew, and you, and I've been doing this for years in different ways in companies and blah blah. And I am at the point where I'm in the learning phase and now the growth phase. I could say, you know what, that was amazing. I love it. It's a great program. I agree with everything. But right now, I don't yet have everything in place for what I want. So let me go back and do some of the things I'm familiar with,
Hmm.
which is I could go build something and launch something and do, but it's like, no, that's not part of the growth phase. And I have to understand it. Again, I'm an organic gardener in that. I have to put the seed in and I have to water it and I have to nurture it and I have to all of that. There's so many analogies here. But it's the right way to do it. Everything that you and we talk about here is because we've done it. We've tried all the methods. I bought everybody's stuff. You have. We've tried it. This is what works consistently over time. And I agree with you. People are like, okay, well, I got to figure out what I'm going to sell and all the things and the follow ups and the sequences and the that, and then the scale and the this and the traffic and the Facebook ads and the ad agency and the this, that, and that. And it's like, oh my God, this is exhausting and overwhelming. I told you I get exhausted now reading people's emails because I know what it takes for them to have to be in throttle mode all the time.
Yeah,
So, yeah, go.
for sure. The expectations, let's talk about that a little bit. Uh, you must expect these lows and stress, the anxieties, the properly deal with this stuff. The decline in customers, a death happens in your family, like whatever, like expecting the bad stuff to happen. And I'm not talking about having this negative attitude because this scares a lot of people. They're like, oh, I don't want to bring that into my life. I don't want to talk about that. But you're avoiding it. Like it's not good. And let me go back to this one other slide because this is another lesson that John Assaraf taught me, which was on the growth phase. If you can just imagine, I can't because I can't point to it now, draw on it, but just imagine right at the top of that growth phase, like toward the top of it before it circles down to the decline, as they're on their way up when everybody's celebrating. And this was like so important for me to learn. And like you said, this could take years, or it could take a year between the whole thing, going from learning to the decline. So the time doesn't it matters, but sometimes it's a short time, sometimes it's a long time, however long it takes. So you're on your way up and you're celebrating, like, yes, I made it through. I focused, things are working, people are buying my stuff, whatever. And John said that's when we start preparing for the decline. And we're not in negative mode, but we're being aware. And for example, I don't know. Let's look at Facebook thing. Like, oh my, I built I built my Facebook group to like 1,000 people or 100,000 people. Yahoo! What happens if all those people, if they shut my Facebook group down? Right? It's just being aware. Like, what are you preparing for? How are you going to deal with it? And that's all that means. So it was a super important lesson for me to learn.
I really like you putting that in there, Joey, because that's where community comes in. That's where dream family comes in. When you are experiencing a low, when something doesn't work, when you put your cohort out there and nobody signs up, or it's a natural part of the human energy flow. If we're going to experience the upper limits of being, then at times, unfortunately, we have to understand the depths of despair in order to truly appreciate the upper limits of being. And so this is part of it. It can't be, oh, nothing. I'm never going to let that happen. I'm never going to let that energy in. It happens. It's part of life. There are some things, and again, it's not what happens, it's how you respond to it, how you deal with it.
Yeah, and this is still part of focus, by the way.
Yeah,
If you're not focused, then when these things happen, what happens? You divert. You're like,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm not dealing with this. This is too stressful. Like I didn't get what I wanted. I'm out."
yeah,
And here's the thing. It's not a matter of if it comes, it's a matter of when and how severely it strikes you. If you're writing any of this stuff down, that would be a writer downer for me because
the
that was
right
huge.
counter.
Yeah, writer downer. If it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's the same as when you look at a hard drive. Well, I wonder if my hard drive crashes. No, it's when your hard drive is going to crash,
Yep.
right? And our this is again, like this is from Bill Phillips. This is one of my favorite all-time quotes ever. Our character will not fully be tested until things are not going our way. And that is the end of this. So I don't know. Actually, I have a little bit more here, but I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop it here because we talked a lot about this focus. Maybe we'll do the new business model another day.
Well, I mean, Joey, you've done an incredible job in clarifying clarity and focus.
Thank you.
Seriously, really, you brought in so many slides with so many key pieces. It's not like, okay, we're going to talk about one thing and just beat it to death. You jumped around with clarity and focus and chunking and there's so much in this. This is a great show, like all the other ones.
Thanks, man.
But no, this just is so appropriate, and I like how you ended it. Is the expectations, because for me, that's kind of, I right now my energy is not exactly where it usually is from a physiological standpoint. I did Atlas. I've got dream clients. I'm doing a lot of things and moving it all in the right direction. And I could easily be like, okay, this sucks, and I'm going to just give up and do something else, because it's like, no, this is part of it, and it's not going my way today, but guess what? Tomorrow I wake and I have an opportunity to do life again. I got an opportunity to do life today in amazing ways. I got to hang out with a dream client that fills my bucket overflowing. Got to hang out with my son, fills my bucket overflowing. I got to hang out with my best friend and our crew, fills my bucket to overflowing. Guess what? I may have had a little bit of low energy today, but fill that up with three of the most powerful things in my life. That's what I fight for. So I appreciate, like, we covered a lot of really cool, good stuff tonight.
We did. Thank you. Thank you for that. And we thank you for being here every Tuesday night. We just try to bring whatever conversation is mattering to us, to you, and hopefully these conversations are good for you and help you with your business. Because I know it's not easy. So that's why we have the community. By the way, so I'm just going to plug that one more time. If you want to come into our Facebook group, this is a cool Facebook group where there's amazing humans, heart-centered people, change makers that really want to make a difference. We're not in there trying to sell you. I'm sure you've been in Facebook groups that's all they're trying to do. We don't do any of that. There's people who are supporting you on this journey, on this hard journey, and we're there. So if you want to join us, if you're that heart-centered person, we welcome you. If not, it's probably not the best place for you. And thank you for all the great comments. I know that Narcissa, thank you for this. This means the world to us as well. You, the whole crew, and you mean everything. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Narcissa. We love you.
And Gord, thank you for the cool comment. Thank you very much. Hopefully that helped you. And yeah, so we will see you on next Tuesday. Wow, we're already in October, man. It's getting close. But yeah, next Tuesday, same time, same bat channel, and we'll play the home game one more time.
That channel, and we'll see what stuff we're going to talk about.
I love it, man.